Department of Health has announced major changes to the COVID-19 vaccine regime. Instead of having to wait 42 days, Pfizer recipients can now get their second dose only 21 days later. Pfizer booster shots are now possible only 3 months after receiving a second dose, down from 6 months or 180 days. Mixing and matching boosters is now also possible, regardless of whether you've had the J&J single shot or the Pfizer double shot. While government suggests you stick to the same brand, you can choose which brand of booster to receive if stocks allow. All changes will have taken effect by Wednesday.
Well, to help us unpack these new changes to vaccine distribution, we turn to Professor Barry Shube. He's with the Vaccination Ministerial Advisory Committee. Prof, thanks so much for joining us. It sounds like good news. Why the change in protocol?
Yes, thanks, Annika. I think the change is really to try. I think the main thing is really we want to get as many people vaccinated as possible. That's the bottom line. We need to kind of get as many people vaccinated. And the problem is that when one looks at the number of doses which have been administered as booster doses, it's pretty low. So what we're trying to do, one of the problems is that 6 month gap. Many people have not really taken up that 6 months, and this is clearly shown in the data that comes on vaccine uptake. So I think by shortening it from 6 months to 3 months, down to 90 days for that booster shot, I think we hope that's going to accelerate uptake of the boosters. In terms of the interval between the two Pfizer doses for the primary immunization, coming down to 3 weeks, I think really fits in what has been the practice overseas in many countries, United States, for example, many European countries. Again, we're hoping that that's going to increase vaccination uptake. This is really the primary motivation. We need to have more people being immunized. So changing these schedules might accelerate vaccine uptake.
Prof, the latest stats I've got is 42% of adults in South Africa vaccinated, only 5% with booster shots. Could we be sitting in a situation where we are going to have vaccines that stock that's going to expire?
Well, that's also a consideration. That could well be a factor as well. We have got ample supplies, but of course these vaccines do have a limited shelf life. So we do need to get these vaccines into arms. There's no point in having these vaccines in fridges. They need to be in people's arms where they're going to work. So yes, there may well be some kind of backlog of vaccines in storage. And there is, as you say, a limited shelf life.
Prof, anecdotally, it seems that a lot of medical staff who'd received the J&J wanted to get the Pfizer as a booster. Why do you think, or just from what you've been, your colleagues tell you, why did they want the Pfizer as a booster?
Yeah, I think there have been a number of studies, several studies done overseas, where they've shown that what we call a heterologous boosting, in other words, using a different vaccine. It's Pfizer following J&J, also the other way around. J&J following Pfizer, a heterologous boosting, seems to give a higher antibody response. In other words, the antibodies measured in the laboratory. Now, this does not necessarily translate into better efficacy, but certainly it is part of the immune response, an important part of the immune response to protect individuals. And I think that may be the reason, looking at these data, that there may be a preference. But however, we do know that homologous boosting is also pretty effective, and that's been done on efficacy studies as well.
Would you actually suggest that if I got the Pfizer, that 2 Pfizers, that I get a J&J as a booster? Or vice versa?
No, Annika, I wouldn't feel strongly about it, to be quite honest. I've had 2 J&Js, a homologous J followed by another J&J. I would really think it's 6 of one and half a dozen of other at the moment. Look, this is moving knowledge. We are accumulating more and more as the trials go on. So far, from the information that we've got now, there's no really definitive evidence that I can advise you to do one against the other.
Last question, Prof. Just in terms of the rollout of vaccinations for the foreseeable future, do you see us getting vaccines every few months for the next year or so, getting a vaccine once a year against COVID? Is this likely to be an ongoing sort of treatment that we need as as humans around the world?
Yeah, Annika, I think this looks like the pattern that's going to happen in the future, because basically the vaccines that we got at the moment, and this, of course, is our knowledge at the moment, I keep on emphasizing it, our present vaccines don't seem to have very, very durable immunity, certainly lasting years, like measles vaccine does and so on. So the kind of vaccine that we're using for COVID probably will need to be boosted at a regular interval. Now, what that regular interval will be, I think time will tell. At the moment, it looks like certainly annually. But on the other hand, there are a lot of research going into developing better vaccines, and maybe the new generation of vaccines will have a more durable response, a more durable immune response, hopefully.
This really is the last question, but something that I've been dying to ask you. Prof, any talk about vaccines for under 12s?
There is a lot of talk about it, but at the moment, it's not widely used around the world. There are certainly many countries which do, but certainly not universal. But we are examining it, we are looking at it. But really, Annika, the priority is to get the vaccine into the older individuals. Those are far more vulnerable, and really that must be our priority.
All right, thank you so much. That was Virologist and Vaccination Ministerial Advisory Committee Chair, Professor Barry Shoop. Thank you so much.